time for We Got Worm. No,
No,
it's shit. I can't believe I just said that.
did you do that
Take
on purpose?
no. They're way better. Like I said, we're Take That, You Worm.
There you go. That's
There you go.
better.
It's only a few words different.
Um,
Uh,
I gotta
s-
clarify. The last episode was arc 12, minus the very last interlude of it, because I think we just didn't realize that there was an interlude after that last
yeah,
interlude.
I thought I got around to it, but you know what? Last time we talked for so long, and Joe died for so long. He's not here this time. There won't be a revive gag because I put Worm at the end this time to be nice to him.
Yeah, to kind of apologize to the people who only listen to the like singular worm videos. Like we record all of our videos at once in one large segment, which is the actual Roundabout cast, and then Willer splits it up into the Roundabout shortcuts.
Right on.
Which one of the shortcuts usually get more viewership than the whole thing because people usually have like a particular series they want to go
Hmm.
watch. So to anyone wondering why we don't necessarily do more per week, it's because we're also talking about like five other things, and we don't want to sit here all day.
We want to be a variety podcast
Yeah,
because we're variety people. Um, on the flip side, for anyone who comes to the podcast, and then Worm is the hardest series that we have because not only did we start on arc 10 just off the bat, but also it's confusing to just listen to because of that. Even if you're listening to our One Piece, you can follow Bradley's One Piece opinions since the beginning. But from
yeah,
where it's like, yeah, here's 10, here's all these characters, but
yeah.
then it's also super long, so it
That's why I
goes
think
both
the
ways.
roundabout shortcuts are a good call because in any given week, like there might be two or three things that someone knows and is able to listen to, but they probably wouldn't know everything that we talk about. So
I want to apologize to Kyle who listens to all of our podcasts and probably has to skip half of it.
I
All
wonder if
right.
Jamal knows everything we talk about.
I do have a comment shout out of the
Oh
day.
shit! All right,
Oh, damn, I don't have the video pulled up. Do you by any chance?
I do not.
Uh, we just posted our big Arc 12 today, and someone left a comment that explained how Mannequin, like, there was a Word of God line that I missed that just kind of explains that Mannequin got there through Cherish, like you said. By there, I mean he got to where Taylor was. Um, just by based on, like, there was less suffering in the area, which means someone was getting help there. And that person was our good friend Thomas Pettier.
Yay!
Thank you for
Um,
leaving that super helpful comment.
Classic Todd also on our Reddit post. Um,
Oh,
says he appreciates our different perspective, and kind of liked your take on Hook Wolf because I think he was also kind of in the same camp I initially was, where it's just like,
man, fuck Hook Wolf.
yeah, just fuck this guy, which also fuck Hook Wolf, but there's also some amount of depth to him
I'm
that can be.
feeling like he must do something very atrocious later on because I feel like, or it's just also I forgot all of part one, so it's either one or the other. But he's all right.
For I guess for a Nazi overlord,
I've
he's about as
seen
good as
he's
he's good.
cooler than Kaiser. Kaiser just felt like a little prick.
Yeah, maybe he is. Yeah, Kaiser's probably a worse wolf.
Worst Nazi.
Yeah,
All right, having this at the end without Joe, it's kind of more lax. It's not bad. We
yeah. No,
can,
it works.
but we're gonna jump into it. I did 12 interlude B, which was the Jamie interlude. Um, this one was pretty interesting. Bradley, you said that this one, especially, you thought that the audiobook might jump around too much, and it definitely does. It goes from like time skip to time skip with like a second pause. There's no waiting.
Yeah,
Uh,
like there's more than one thing that I don't necessarily like about like I do appreciate the effort of the audiobook. I think they did a really good job adapting this long ass story into an audiobook.
yeah.
Um if like my probably the biggest gripe I would have is that chapters like this that do a lot of skipping around in the actual text there's like very clear breaks
There's a
delay.
little square and like a space.
Yeah, in the actual audiobook, they just
Go.
seamlessly go from one sentence to the
Now,
next.
thankfully, it's
Yeah,
written well enough to where I was able to catch myself pretty quickly after every time jump.
yeah.
There was even one time jump backwards and then back forward, but I think I was able to keep it on track.
There you go.
So Jamie here is meeting with a doctor called Mother.
Yes.
Um, Good game series, but she's giving out powers through Cauldron, which we have mentioned before.
Yeah, and I guess this would be the first time like
Seen
we.
their operatives in
Oh
action.
yeah. And it's kind of an interesting setup we have here because we've heard of this organization, but we don't even know what an organization that gives people powers would look like, what their motivations would be, how they do it. And we see a lot going on here.
And we still don't really get a glimpse because she's doing this in like some secret barn. So this is clearly like a dummy facility. They must have many of them. She mentions that like if you break your breach of contract, they'll try not to kill you, but it has the big implications that they will if they need to. Like there's just all this shady stuff with everything she says, and Jamie's trying to process it all.
Yeah, and it's very clear that this is like really secretive because like they're able to open these portals to their facility like pretty much anywhere they want. Like I think she said they did it in the barn and also in her room. And then when
Oh
she's in the
yeah.
facility, she like looks at her GPS and it says she's off the Ivory Coast.
Okay,
So
so this is clearly power. It's not. At first in my mind I was like, oh, this is technology based, but I think this is like a different kind of power than.
yeah, and
Unless
man,
it could still be technology, maybe.
and our girl is she tries to kind of get a read on these people, like if she wants to decide whether these people are like good people or villains, and she can't really get a read. She's like, oh well, if I don't do what you say, you're gonna kill me. She's like, oh no no, we try to avoid killing people, and it's like that doesn't really help me decide what
Yeah,
to think of people.
she goes through with it. They have this little section where they explain like they look at all these graphs and all these variables to explain what kind of power you can get. Which I could just feel the Bradley boner with all these explanations with like the science between how they like graphed out what kind of power you're gonna get for what your budget is per power. It was all very interesting though, even if it
Yeah,
flew over my head a little bit. Um, just you can tell like they have it down to a science.
yeah, and clearly, like, there's no way someone's gonna get the full science of that from just this chapter. We're still kind of doing the worm technique of like drip feeding the big mysteries to people.
Right. Um. One thing worth mentioning is her motivation for getting the powers. It's to stop a villain called Madcap who interrupted her dad's research in the past because he breaks people out on their way to the birdcage. Um, that's right.
Yeah, and the from there the chapter kind of evolves into
Her
their
future
role.
after she becomes a powered.
Yeah,
She joins the Protectorate as one of her three favors to the Cauldron.
yeah, and
Which,
she's surprised at it at first. She's like, "Oh, I mean, that's an easy favor. Yeah, I'll be a hero."
but she's also aware that's like, are you gonna ask me to like betray them at some point? Um, and you get this kind of quick back and forth of her keeping her. She keeps challenging Madcap, um, but eventually he talks himself into the Protectorate. What is her hero name again? It's Agony. No,
Battery.
that's the one. Battery and Assault is
Yeah,
they
and so
basically become a duo through this twist of fate. She ends up falling in love with him,
yeah,
and
and
becoming like a close partner with him.
yeah, it kind of evolves in because like initially he's like, "Oh, I'll join, and we can just be assault and battery," and she's like, "Oh,
No, you're ruining my name retroactively.
yeah," she's like, "I hate it." And it kind of shows their relationship evolve where he's kind of like that guy who I feel like it's almost like a movie trope where it's like, oh, he's the guy and he was the bad guy, but
He's
secretly there's like a heart of gold deep down.
he's like a misogynist asshole, but like he does well with children, and he warms his way into her heart eventually.
And that's the thing. This actually was probably one of the most controversial chapters in the book.
Really, I
people
guess I could see it.
yeah, people really did not like him, I guess, like continually trying to win her affection after she didn't want it.
I
Um,
really like this because it was just a really realistic look at a. I guess not realistic, but like it just so happens that sometimes you get these weird, fucked up relationships, and just the ease, the smoothness that like it was presented. I was like, yeah, this is interesting.
yeah, I guess like I can totally see, like you said, like he does have those like very misogynist tendencies that I think is why the chapter became controversial in the way it did.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I mean the my take on stories is like
yeah,
racist and bastards and misogynists. They exist, right? So they're gonna be in the story in some sense.
yeah.
If the story is trying to have a wide array of characters.
I
Um,
think the
but I thought he wasn't just that. He had like I guess a few other elements to make him a little more interesting.
yeah, I think the reason that like I never even considered that angle of this chapter the first time I read it, and I think maybe the reason for that is this kind of love story is such a trope at this point that I was like, oh yeah, it's the guy who was a bad guy, and then he becomes not a bad guy, and then he has a heart of gold, and then they fall
Yeah,
in love.
yeah, basically. But yeah, it just basically ends with she has to get Shatterbird and Siberian out of the city. That is her final request from Cauldron.
Yeah,
And
and
the chapter ends with like every action has a reaction kind of thing.
yeah, and I think that's like the big. I
Takeaway.
think that's like the big drop in this chapter because, like, for the most part, this is kind of a contained
Yeah.
thing. Like, I guess it does serve to let us look at this cauldron organization we've heard about. But as far as how this chapter relates to what our characters are doing, this is like, oh shit, there this organization in some way is trying to ensure the success of either these two individuals, or they owe these two individuals a favor, or they want them alive for something. We
Well,
can't.
my mind was, oh, these guys got their powers through Cauldron.
Yeah,
They're
I
part
think
of the
that's
fold.
the. I think that's the. I think that's what my first thought was. Um,
Interesting that Siberian, the scariest motherfucker, is a Cauldron baby. If that is the case,
if that is the case.
which it is.
Teehee.
Let's move on to
Yeah,
13.1 in the
yeah.
spirit of pacing.
I don't think there was a whole lot else to say on that chapter.
It was
It's kind of one of those ones
I
where
liked it.
you can just take it at face value. I think.
I did like it quite a bit. 13.1, the big parts of it are Jack laying down his rules. He sends him over to the good guys. He's explaining how they're all gonna test the participants. They can't get in the way of each other's tests. You can't leave the city or everyone dies. You can get as much help as you need for the tests. There's time limits and time bonuses and deductions and all this. Remind me again. This comes up later, and I think I forgot how it works with them testing each other, but I think you explained it to me. Basically, you can go test any one of the is it 6 or 7 participants?
I guess there's 6 candidates, if I recall.
Yeah, it's kind of iffy because some of them didn't get candidates, and Oni Lee died in the process, and so
Yeah,
I think it's like 6, and it's weird also because one of them is Noelle, so it's like how is she even going to be in play? Um, but basically, you explained to me that they can target anyone in any order, and that they're not expected to get all 6 of them within the 3 hour period. It's more about just doing as best as they can.
yeah. Because like the way I view it is, this is a challenge for the nine, just like it's a challenge for the contestants. Because the nine always test people, but they've never made it a game where they give themselves time limits before.
Yeah, what's the point of on their end? I must have missed it, but like, what is the drawback if they lose or like the last placing person in their challenges? What happens? Is
The
Jack
win
gonna slash them open?
the win condition for our contestants is that
All
they
yeah, I
they
mean,
need a certain amount of candidates alive at the end.
right. I mean,
So,
for Jack, why did he? Why is he putting these time limits on? Is it just because of Tattletale luring him into it? Or is this some part of game that he plays with the Nine as well?
Well, this is the first time they've ever done this game, and this is what he even talked about in the in his interlude, where Cherish was like, "Why would you even do this? Like, it gives you no advantage."
It's fun.
And basically, the reason he does anything is he finds it interesting.
It's fun.
And basically, yeah, they they always test their candidates, but they've never given themselves time limits before. So it's kind of a challenge for them to try and test.
Right. Yeah, thinking back how they tested the other candidates, like their time limits were all over the place. Where it's like 3 days getting chased by Siberian, or just drink blood within this time limit, or just change yourself within a time. So it's always been a little different.
So basically, it's kind of a challenge to try to test all these people within your time limit. And the drawback for not testing all of them, or at least eliminating some, is that they have a higher chance of all the nominees surviving to the end and the nine losing.
Right.
Which, of course, we have to remember Jack didn't have to do this. He's doing it out of the graciousness of his heart.
Yeah, that's why.
If the nominees win, it's basically just the nine won't come back for, I guess, a few years. Like,
Right. I think the wording was you don't come back for 5 years or something like that.
yeah. So
So they're just
it's
buying as
important to remember
buying as
that-
much time as they can.
yeah, it's always important to remember that Jack doesn't have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing it because he thinks it'll be fun.
It's funny.
It's fun.
13.1 is a good chapter, but really not much that I want to say about it. It basically has some strategy meetings. We see Lisa's after effect. She always has a frown now. So that's a little design change, I'd say. And it basically just all building up to the exhaustion that this is all going to be at the end of the chapter, where they're about to have to fight Mannequin, and then they have to fight someone else immediately. They can't really go to sleep because they can show up at any time. It's going to go on for not 8 more times or so. So it's just the realization that this is the hardest task we could do.
Yeah, it's like they are kind of in the mode now where they're like, we're never gonna have a chance to rest again until this is over.
Right. Which is a horrifying thought.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you have to say about 13.1?
I feel like we usually have a little bit less to say about the point one chapters, just because they're usually kind of setting the stage for the rest of the arc. Like,
Yeah,
here's
that
what
is
our
true.
characters are, which I don't think is a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
Because we really like. Usually, we're kind of dealing with whatever the aftermath of the end of the last arc was. So I think we can just kind of move forward.
13.2. Early on in this chapter, they start addressing the bitch situation, which no one's done yet. The fact that she was nominated and didn't tell anyone. Is she actually planning to join them? What's the deal? But she's not having any of it. She's not going to talk. Her thoughts are her own. She's being as difficult as ever. Bitch is horrible, and I love her.
Yeah, and like, we're gonna get to see a lot more of her throughout the rest of this arc, and I guess the Slaughterhouse 9 story arc. I kind of like some of these moments where we don't get to know what she's thinking, because we've seen what she initially thinks in her interlude when she got first introduced and nominated.
Super good.
So, like, you kind of have to wonder what she's thinking now. Like, is she still considering it? Is she just angry? Is she thinking about running away?
I feel like this dog is the big clincher here. It's like she's carrying it around. She's bringing it into super serious meetings that are making the team look bad as a result. So, like, is this dog, like, such a good gift to where she's considering working with the Nine? And also the fact that Siberian kind of calls her out, as I recall. She didn't really speak, but, like, she basically... basically, bitch is someone who is wild by nature, so she should just join them.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell where she's at. I'm gonna say no, based on stuff that happens very soon. any chance that she had to join is going to go out the window.
I think that's a good call.
I think that's a decent guess. But onto this chapter, the remainder is checking up on Panacea, who they realize is one in Lisa's shelter. Lisa sees her, and they want to know what's up. Why is she there? They find out that she's one of the why do I want to say tributes? They might as well be.
They might as well be.
One of the screwed people. Taylor basically tries to get her to join the group. Panacea is feeling pretty down about herself. She feels like a villain after she kind of fucked up her sister for life. And it's been thoughts that have been in her for a long time. She's always been kind of almost irrationally afraid that she would be villainous like her father. And then it just became a self-fulfilling prophecy where she is now. In her mind. So I could see her joining after some of these events. That'll be interesting. Having a healer on the team means that Taylor and Gru can get more fucked up in future battles.
Yeah, and they really kind of have this whole argument with each other where I think throughout the entire Slaughterhouse 9 arc, and especially going forward, there's a lot of kind of parallels drawn between Taylor and Panacea. How they both have a actually pretty rigid idea of what right and wrong is, where I guess I should say there are some things that, oh man, how would you even put this? I think even Taylor in this chapter is like, holy shit, like you can do the right thing, and Panacea is like, no, I can't. Like they have a very harsh idea of like what heroes and villains are, and Taylor will say and has said in this arc that oh, no, like sometimes anything goes. Like I've kind of learned that morality can kind of be
whatever I need it to be.
yeah, but I think in reality her and Panacea are very similar in that there are certain things that they always think are going to be wrong.
I think the easiest way to say it is that Panacea is just harder on herself. She's extremely hard on herself to where one slip up and she thinks of herself as a eternal villain like her dad was now.
Yeah.
While Taylor's like, oh, I could keep slipping up. It's okay. I got my justifications.
Is that like both of them have done bad things, but the very early Taylor in the story, when she started doing these things like robbing the bank, I think she didn't ever have the guilt or self-reflection that Panacea has, and we see how much of a difference that makes.
Even in her, after like we came back in Arc 9 and she's kind of thinking on her, like reflecting more, she's not reflecting in a particularly guilty way. Like she's very dull to it. She's like, oh, I'm a little bit guilty, I guess, but that's life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good comparison, and I'm sure there will be internal conflicts, just like how she's shown some differences with Gru, where Gru is very self-centered, while she still wants to help people and be the nice villain if she can, and stuff like that. But forget all this, because Mannequin shows up.
Mannequin's back.
Hey, and, my boy.
He's back for round 2.
This time he's got a gun.
He's got a big old gun, and he kind of got to modify himself a little bit, because I think she said I think before she notices the gun, she's like, oh, his arms are different, and then it's like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah, he kills Lucy with the gun. He could have killed Panacea and Taylor, but he doesn't. Taylor later suspects that he wants to torture her by killing all her friends in front of her eyes and all her people, which is very possible. My favorite little modification now is that he laughs with his little mouth. He like clacks his mouth like a nutcracker to do like a taunting laugh.
Yeah, he's got to he's got to taunt them a little bit, and then this actually ends up serving a practical purpose in battle too.
Indeed. Mannequin's mannerisms and the fact like he's the only one that we've really fought, and we fought him twice now, so he's probably going to end up being one of the more memorable of the 9 for me. It's just because he gets the most action time as far as actually doing things.
I think that's fair.
At least that's how it is so far. It'll change pretty soon, I feel like, where I ended. But uh he basically stabs who did he stab? Was it one of the dogs
Uh,
or one of the people? He basically stabs someone with a knife that has a deadline for bitch to do her own modifications, which is his traditional task for his tributes.
yeah, and like, man, I rereading this, the way he drops into the scene is kind of terrifying
Very
because
sudden.
Taylor's just talking to Panacea and like he had been up on the roof and he grabs her neck and then like drops down like a counterweight, pulling her up by her neck.
Yeah.
Like
And
holy
she
shit.
just he leaves her hanging there for a while. Um and when I was listening to this, I was on my way to groceries. So just like there like a 10 seconds pass, I'm like, "Wait, what is happening now?" Like he just came out of nowhere. It was very mannequin like. He can one thing that's worth noting is that he can sense the silk webs now, which he couldn't before. So he's made some modification to his sensing systems that we still haven't really gotten a confirmation of. All we
Yeah,
know is that he can sense the webs now, probably also blood, if I had to guess.
I think it's a very I think it's a very Tinker thing to do to
Hard
tailor
counters.
tailor your kit to who you're
Yeah.
fighting.
Yeah, yeah. You switch out your deck to have the cards that counter what you just lost to.
There you go.
Or you ban Nasus because you just lost to him until you stop banning him.
Of course.
Uh Forget all that though. We got Snare Interlude 1 because the audiobook decided to actually include the interludes as interludes now. That's
Yeah.
throwing me off. Uh
Well, the interludes, I think the audiobook does it in the same order that they were published.
okay, so it's been in release order. The interludes has just always
Yeah.
been at the ends, I guess.
Yeah, they're usually between arcs rather than between individual chapters.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's not that weird then. The girl reading these has a really thick accent. It's pretty cute, but I will say at the end when you finish one of the audiobooks, they're like, "Hey, this is a story by J.C. McCree. If you want to support us, come to parahumans.org." Uh, and then they're playing music, but she does the mixing weird to where the music just deafens me each time. I just wanted to
Oh
bring
no.
that up. She leaves the music very loud. Um, Whenever I make my Worm Netflix TV show, that opening music is going to be the opening for the show.
There
So
you go.
look forward to that. Snare Interlude 1 is an Aisha interlude. It starts with her shitty mom being shitty, and I'm like, oh man, this is a terrible flashback. And then you realize, wait, this is present day.
Yeah.
I feel like that was maybe intentional, even.
And we see Aisha just kind of reflecting on the situation her mom is in and kind of exercising her power with, like taking drugs away from her mom, and her mom just
Not
doesn't even
noticing.
realize what happened.
She's yelling at her mom even though it's not doing anything, and
Yeah.
she's too afraid to actually confront her mom, which is really interesting. I'm gonna say Aisha is a really well written character in the sense to where I forget she exists, which is super intentional. I feel like.
Yeah. And I think especially like whenever she was first introduced to the story, this happens a lot. Like when the Undersiders did their whole raid, like on the ward's headquarters and
Right.
Dragon there,
God, that feels
uh,
like forever ago.
like I should be mentioned like maybe once per chapter, and when
Exactly.
Taylor's like, "Oh God, I forgot she existed."
Yeah. And we get some more. Like this is a chapter where we finally get like the extent of her powers, which is really interesting to the point where like she can be there. People can't feel her if they touch her. They said
or
that that's a
it's more
big
like
deal.
it's even crazier because it's like people in a technical sense they do feel things if she touches them. It's just it doesn't make it into long term or even short term memory.
So it's they can feel it, but it's forgotten very quickly. Then
Yeah,
so this whole chapter she's basically mad. She got told to buzz off while the Undersiders are actually working because Gru's being an overprotective brother. She doesn't want to
and
be at home, so she's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna look around, gonna check some police radars, gonna go find the nine. Hey, I found the nine.
yeah, and I can't really blame Gru for telling his sister to not go after the nine scariest people on the planet.
Yeah, but he's doing it himself, and she's useful, and lives are at stake. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, she is like, screw you, I'm gonna go
And
kill them
you
myself.
know her. You know she's gonna act out as a result.
Oh yeah,
Um,
because yeah, she's the
rebellious type.
yeah, she's the rebellious type.
Maybe you forgot that. I like how she blames her mother for a shitty memory just because her mother. You could tell that like she started doing drugs after Brian was born. She even mentions like, "Oh, Brian's fine. He has no memory issues.
Yeah,
You're gonna have a super messed up baby because you're just being such a terrible mom." So hey, that's kind of a rough situation. I feel really bad.
yeah,
I didn't realize it was still like this. For some reason, I thought like when Brian he says that he beat up his mom's boyfriend, I would have thought that like she would have turned a new leaf since then, since his trigger time. It's apparently only gotten worse
yeah,
from what
and
we
it
can
kind of
see.
makes kind of what makes me it makes me want his situation to turn out, because the whole reason he's doing the things he does is so he can get custody of his sister and
Right.
give her
Oh,
a
I
better life.
forgot. I completely forgot about those interactions with the custody service lady.
Yeah, but then at the same time, his method of getting custody is and getting money is them two being
Big
super.
crimes.
So yeah, I don't know. You judge what the best
Yeah.
best choice is.
Well, the best choice probably wasn't chasing down the merchant, death scene, and finding the nine. But this was a really interesting scene where I was like, she's really not being noticed right now. She is walking around and looking at all of the nine there, which I believe were Bonesaw, Crawler, Burn Scar, Shatterbird, and Cherish.
I think Cherish and Jack came in like at the end of the chapter. But yeah,
Yeah,
for the most part, she just walked into a room of some of the most dangerous people in the world, and
is completely unnoticed, and she
yeah,
just thinks, if I just kill one of them, if I just bring myself to do it, I could really be saving the situation right now. Brian doesn't want me in it, but hey, I'm gonna be the hero right now, but also saving multiple lives. And she's just looking around, just like, which, if I can bring up the bravery to do it, which one of you would I kill?
yeah. I thought this was kind of interesting because from the moment the nine were introduced, I was like, what do these people do when they're not out killing people? And they're just kind of like laying on around on the couch, like listening to music and reading a book and stuff like that.
The fact that Crawler fits in buildings is the shocker here,
Yeah, I wonder. Like, I think the thickest part of his body would be like 10 feet deep,
which is what you
which
said, which I was like, I don't think Wildbow thought that one through
I would need to
logistically.
see I would need to see the apartment.
Yeah, I gotta see these blueprints. She decides Bonesaw should die because she's actively torturing someone.
Yeah,
She's just doing it for
she's not
fun.
sure about it for a moment, but then she sees the man on the table. She's like,
Yeah,
"Well,
sorry.
sorry, kid. Sorry, kid."
I really loved that reaction. I think it was literally sorry, kid.
Yeah, like she was like really kind of hesitating on it, and then from the moment she saw that guy, she's like, "Nope, it's no, no, we're
I
doing it."
really appreciate that because honestly, like, fuck these people.
Yeah, like after that, she just had no hesitation.
And I mean, you're
And
not gonna get caught. And
and
she
man,
kills Bonesaw, and I was like, Bradley, what the fuck? She just
man,
killed Bonesaw.
I forgot that she actually said "sorry, kid" out loud. I thought she just thought it in her head. She totally said it.
Yeah, but she actually didn't kill Bonesaw because apparently she's modified every one of the nine or something,
Oh
and
yeah,
they can all just survive wounds.
she
Holy
is
shit!
the medical tinker.
And you told me, as word of God, that she's been with the crew for some of the longest.
She has been with the crew for an uncharacteristically long amount of time. I mostly say that because the crew has very high turnover. Like, lasting more than several months is probably impressive. Bonesaw would have been with the group, I think, for a few years, but in the grand scheme of the nine, she's actually been with it for a very short amount of time.
Okay, I see. Um, I wonder if Jack's always been there. I can't imagine these people getting along without Chad Slash. But also,
Yeah, I could spoil it if I wanted to, but I don't know if I
Will I
will.
will I find out very clearly?
You will find out very clearly.
Fantastic. Um, I wonder if Jack was in the room, could she have killed him, or is this like modification Bonesaw does even to like the most normal dude in the room? Is it so severe that it would save him? Because if she killed Jack right there, she would be averting all the tragedies. But of course, he wasn't even in the room, so we won't even get to find out that answer.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that.
Damn you, Bradley. Uh, Cherish finds her at the end, kind of. She can sense that she's kind of there through emotions, but she's just kind of yelling into the air. She's like, "Turn
Yeah,
yourself
she's like really.
invisible," and like Aisha is yelling. She's like, "Oh, I'm here. I'm not invisible," and like it doesn't work.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's like. I think was really hoping that. I think Aisha didn't want to actually turn off her power on the off chance Jack sensed her. So she's like, maybe there's a chance this girl will know what I'm saying, even if I have my power on, because she was able
because
to
she can
sense me.
kind of feel me. Yeah, that makes sense. Can Jack just sense people? Is that a thing?
Well, I mean, I think she didn't want to turn off her power because Jack would maybe see or hear her.
Fair. You don't want to fuck with the Chad.
You don't want to fuck
Cherish
with him.
Cherish ends up making a deal with Aisha that we will find out at a later date.
Yeah, and then remember how well it worked out the last time she tried to betray the nine?
Well, Jack specified she would 100% die at the end of this mission. Like it was like, oh, I'm going to
Cherish.
kill her.
Cherish, who would not survive her state of Brockton.
That's one of my favorite lines so far in Worm. It's just dropped so matter of factly.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, she's even more screwed now. And I have high ideas that Jack won't die here because otherwise you lose a huge sense of tension. So yeah, um, yeah, that was a really fun interlude. Aisha's your favorite character, so I'm starting to feel a little bit more. She's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I just love the whole concept of this chapter is I'm just gonna walk up to the scariest person in the world and stab her in the throat. And
And
oh, it didn't
fail.
work. I'm gonna leave.
That's such a cool power. Um, so I feel like I had something else to say, but it's gone now. Okay, so we basically got a couple of interruptions now to the story. We got a Protectorate member who's going to help two of the nine, and then we have Aisha who is teaming up with one of the nine. So the shogi board's getting complicated. It's becoming
Oh
Chinese
yeah.
checkers very quickly. But that's pretty interesting. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. But there's one more chapter I read that we should swiftly move along to because even when I reduce my chapter intake, we're still going to go over 40 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Chapter 13.3, big action chapter. Chasing down Mannequin, or Manny as I write him down for sake of speed. He starts releasing gas, which is a new weapon that he's brought this time. He
Yeah.
releases it from his mouth, which is why he's like doing weird mouth movements and not moving as much when he's releasing his gas. The gas is very deadly. Taylor is able to use her bugs to kind of sense the gas out, but the rest of the crew has to be a little more careful about it.
Yeah, and it kind of opens the way for some cool tactics later on in the fight.
Yeah. So Taylor's doing her usual big things in the middle of battle, which I'm mixed on, but at least this time she's not pretending to be bleeding out on the ground in a tense moment. And it was a lot less thinking this time, so I appreciated that.
Yeah, I like that she kind of goes through like the possibilities here because she kind of has the same thought that the reader might have had. Like, he obviously could have shot us, so like, why would he not shoot us? Like, he had to have a reason. And then it's like she kind of goes through the possibilities. It's like, wait a minute.
The gas is flammable, so that's why he's not shooting.
And yeah, she
Bold move on his part, though. I feel like flammable gas is always a dangerous play. But I really like this sequence here where he's about to shoot Brian. She jumps out of the way. He doesn't shoot. And he just redirects to where Brian got pushed to. And then Taylor looks at him and he just shrugs and shoots anyways. Just
Yeah,
the imagery of him going like, fuck it. And then
yeah. Like
igniting the gas is hilarious to me.
I imagine this being like a very comedic moment, actually.
Yeah, yeah, because like it's really tense because she's gonna stop Brian from getting shot.
Like, I just
And
want to see her like heroic dive, like dragged out over 20 seconds, and it has the sad music, and then she just lands on the ground. Americans like, oh,
and then
okay.
he just moves the gun slightly to the right, shrugs, and blows them all up. The
Oh god.
explosion is not that serious, but Mannequin is knocked down to the ground. And
Yeah.
much like the first time they fought,
Hmm.
uh, where a random guy became a huge fucking hero and just started whipping his head around, Bastard comes in. Also, this whole chapter, she's kind of like controlling Bastard, which is pretty cute. I don't think Bitch is going to appreciate this very much.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
I also very much think that Bastard's going to imprint on Taylor, so later on, Bitch is going to be like, oh, kill Taylor, and Bastard's not going to do it.
But I love her.
But I love her. Bastard just kind of whips Mannequin all around. Taylor's trying to help, but he's just knocking him into Taylor and Brian.
Jesus.
Just all sorts of chaos. I kind of missed something here, like where they ignite him again, but this time it works.
Uh,
Or it doesn't
I,
work, but it knocks him out even more.
yeah, I don't typically take notes on the combat itself, so I wouldn't know.
This was a point where like I just missed it in the audiobook and I didn't have a chance to go back. But they somehow find a way to ignite him again. I think they get some shit into his chains and it's flammable. And then he's on the ground. And I really like this finale portion where he's kind of knocked out more than usual. Gru picks up this large cone-shaped rock and they're all like, yeah, you know what? Let's fucking do this. Taylor doesn't really like say it that aggressively, but she doesn't stop it either. But Bitch is like, kill him, just do it.
Yeah, she's not happy. I
Taylor
mean, this,
Taylor's just like, don't aim for the head. There's nothing there if you're gonna do it.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, he killed Lucy, so
Which is what
motherfuckers.
I was mentioning. Like, she's not joining the nine. There's no way.
Here's the thing: you can kill all these people, you can give people fates worse than death, but you can't kill a dog. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Never kill dogs.
Iraqi. Yeah, and then right as they're about to do it, they get knocked out by a flame wave, and Burn Scar is there, and they're like, "Wait, that's illegal." And then she just kind of talks to Mannequin for a little bit, and they high five each other, and she tags in, and now shit's really heating up.
That was great, Willard.
Thank you, thank you. I'll be here. I'll be here for the future podcast as
I
well.
wish she said that in the book.
Take that, you worm.
Things are really heating up, you worm.
Um, that is a big raising of stakes because they're already pretty tired from this fight. Like, cause he caught him off guard. Gru has some like bullet splinters on his leg because of the shotguns. Taylor's doing all right. Bitch is just angry and down a dog. Two dogs, maybe. It was
Potentially two
it was
dogs.
unclear. One of them got gassed, and Taylor wasn't sure if he died.
It is unclear right now what happened to the second dog. But man, like they've gone up against one member of the nine right now, who is one of the weaker ones, and they're already reeling this hard. So it's like, man, how are we gonna? And then like they get zero break between the first member and the second. So it's like, man, how are we gonna make it through all these rounds?
They do have one little ray of hope, and that's Genesis. I was gonna say Genesis is coming, but actually, I forgot to mention she got wiped out like immediately as soon as they got to where Mannequin was when they were chasing him down. So
how's the gang gonna get out of this one?
Well, let me make a guess here. What could happen here? Burn Scar is coming. Labyrinth will show up because that seems thematically correct.
Oh yeah, because they're best friends in the whole world.
They're biffles. This group. I wish this group had more not tricksters, travelers. Because I think
Travelers are very powerful.
it only has Genesis right in this group, and we didn't get to see her do shit.
Well, I guess we'll find out next time.
Oh, well, surprise! Who is Circus?
So Circus, she is kind of a she's not really a member of a team. She's kind of a rogue.
Oh,
Uh,
I was so because she was in like a meeting in like chapter one. I was very
yeah,
confused.
I think she showed up like she showed up a few times. Like I think there was like a fundraiser that happened back in like maybe Arc 6.
Yeah,
She was there, I think, when Coil initially revealed himself as the boss. Um,
Mr.
but
Zero.
essentially, she kind of has a grab bag group of powers where she has like some small telekinesis. She has a hammer space that she keeps the sledgehammer in, and she has like insane agility. It's kind of she's very much a clown circusy
Yeah.
power set.
All right, that's my guess. Circus is gonna come in. She's gonna pull out the fire hydrant from her pants, and Burnt Scar can't possibly beat a fire hydrant.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, Worm is a realistic series.
There you go.
Um, so no one dies in Worm, but I would actually count Lucy as the semi relevant death right now.
Because man, like a member of the Nine killing one of Rachel's dogs is like
Big news.
if I think if there was any uncertainty in her mind about whether she was going to join these people, I think that would probably make up her mind.
I'm super surprised Mannequin survived though. It would have been crazy if they killed one of the nine, but also like, man, this guy is getting out of so many situations. Very luckily. I mean, not luckily, of course. There's so many factors to why he can escape or can get help because the nine are fairly well organized despite how chaotic they are. I don't know, man. I don't know how like this is supposed to end next arc. There's so much that can happen. Uh,
I think you'll be pretty satisfied with how it ends.
I can only imagine it doesn't end in a way that will satisfy me. I feel like it'll be like a thing where like Jack gets bored or gets tricked, and then I feel like we're only gonna get to see four of the nine or something. That's my guess.
I think you'll be surprised.
I fucking better be. Uh, I got some overarching thoughts here with that cauldron introduction from earlier.
Okay.
Oh God, we still went a long time. I cut the arc for half, and we still did. Um, I feel like after this arc, I feel like there's so many arcs of Worm left, but I feel like Cauldron will be the next big villain, and then the Endbringers, and then Coil maybe somewhere in that mix, and then I picture like the final villain has to somehow be Eidolon because he reminds me of Doctor Manhattan, or or it could be the Endbringers as the last one interchangeably. But I feel like he'd
Yeah,
be
if we're gonna keep like escalating stakes and power, that would
yeah.
probably be the end result.
Well, I mean, he kicked Leviathan's ass and is a humanoid, so I feel like he'd be the biggest threat. But I don't feel like that's enough for 15 arcs. So like, what more could happen in this story if the nine are being handled this arc? Like
Huh.
this feels like the finale to me.
I wonder what'll happen.
They're gonna go into Earth 2 for a filler arc.
Earth 2 Electric Boogaloo.
I knew it. I knew it. All right, that's the roundabout cast for today. I hope you enjoyed. Take that, you worms.
Everyone drink chocolate milk before you go to bed because it's delicious and it'll give you good sleeps, unless you're lactose intolerant.
Then don't do it. I should buy some chocolate milk. It is genuinely very good.
Everyone should buy chocolate milk
The
now.
roundabout cast does endorse chocolate milk. Thank you.
Everyone